Ah, yes, a wonderful, pristine bed in the middle of a dungeon. What a great time to take a nap. Oh, no. The first step to crafting some mimics is digging through my crafting box of shame. I had some walls that I was doing some molding on, and I had some miscast walls that I kept because I knew I would have some sort of use for them in the future. Now, of course, there's a million ways you can craft your own walls. You don't have to use resin duplicates like this. Next up, it's to the hobby drawer here, where I get some beads for eyeballs. And I did note that I did have this bag o' eyeballs that I got off Amazon a while back. But I kind of wanted like more 3D eyes for this build, so I will use these another day. And of course, the very important Chernobyl paperclips. Speaking of Chernobyl, I did have some resin tiles that I used as mimics in the past. These were also mistakes. You see, when you're pouring resin, sometimes when you get to the bottom of the bit of resin that you're pouring, you'll get this weird kind of goop that doesn't pour properly. That's how I managed to get these guys. They look really cool, but they're not quite mimicky enough. To create the body of my third mimic, I'm going to use some oyumairu mold-making material. Also, they sell this stuff as blue stuff, but if you buy the Japanese stuff, it's much cheaper. And once you have it nice and boiling hot, you wait until it's see-through. Once it becomes see-through, you know that means it's hot enough to stick your unprotected fingers in there and get burnt in the process as you're pressing the stuff in. You don't need the water that hot. So, I have very tough hands. Be careful when you're doing this, guys. Anyways, so I pressed it down flat and waited for this to cool. And this should give me a nice medium body for my last mimic. And now I'm waiting for that. I am starting to add bits of green stuff to my kind of ill-formed tiles here. So you can see I'm kind of making like weird organic shapes and stuff. And at this point, I decided to try for my first eye. I rolled a little bit of green stuff into a ball and pushed it onto the tile. And then very carefully, I kind of poked the eye into there. This is maybe not the best way to do this, but it worked okay for this particular model. And these actually were really iridescent and cool looking, so I ended up just using these without ever actually painting over the bead because I really liked the effect. Here's a close-up of the first eye before I smoothed over the edges. And I'm very carefully inserting a paperclip in there so I can make a longer, thinner little protrusion. And I decided to use some stirring sticks because I bought that big box of them. Now I think this worked really well for mimic teeth, but I would suggest maybe you use something else if you're doing a different type of monster, because it's actually really difficult to get rid of the wood grain in these. It looks good on mimics. I'm not so sure it would look good on other monsters. And there you have it. With a little bit of sculpting, my first two wall mimics are done. So let's get started on that third mimic. The green stuff body is ready. So I did a partial bit of molding here for the open door mouth of it. This is a secret door mimic, so I kind of wanted to make it look like a secret door was like cunningly hidden, so I tried to cut very precisely and very accurately through the little bricks here, except that one last one, which I forgot to do properly. Luckily, I caught it in time and actually did the job right the second time I did it. And there I'm left with two little doors that can kind of open up on the front of the miniature and act as the mimic's jaws. Just use super glue to put those in place. I ended up not having to really do anything else. And then I very carefully added a big old tongue to the center of it. And here you can see me poking eyes into a little roll of green stuff that I put on the front. And then I'll very carefully add 4 eyes and then sort of just sculpt the eye sockets afterwards. It's the first time I was doing this, so I didn't realize these tiny little beads had actually pretty big holes in them. I would have tried to avoid the holes, but maybe I'm only the one who noticed that. Added some wooden teeth, and this guy's pretty much good to go. I did ended up adding a little bit more details onto the eyes. This is really good practice for me. One of the primary reasons I did this is so I could practice green stuff sculpting some more. And I learn a little bit every time I do projects like these, so yeah. Here it is after the painting. I will leave the link for the painting stream. These turned out great. And yes, the unexpected bonus to this project, the bed mimic. I just kind of did this guy on a spur-of-the-moment idea that I had, and he came together pretty well. You can tell it's just a sloppy little sculpt, but he does have so much personality that I did decide to include him in the video. And of course, the most traditional mimic of them all, the secret door mimic, which turned out to be a very fun and satisfying miniature to paint up and sculpt. And the guys look really good on the clear plastic bases. Big ups to DM Scotty for suggesting the clear plastic bases. I don't like them for all miniatures, but for minis like these, I think they work out really well. So there's my group of miniatures. This was a very successful little bit of sculpting practice. Now let's get some 360 footage of all the mimics. Now, like I said before, if you want to sculpt your own miniatures, you don't have to start out with green stuff. With mimics, you could easily use Sculpey or Milliput or any number of other techniques to create these little guys. I specifically am kind of wasting a little bit of green stuff for miniatures like this, just because I'm trying to get a little bit better at sculpting with it, and I think I can really tell that I'm improving slightly as I do more and more projects. And if you need further inspiration to try out new materials and techniques, I would suggest you take a look at the Tabletop Crafters Guild. There are so many creators on that website. There's so much interesting stuff. Check out the website for all the creators and make sure you ask to join the Facebook group, because just every day there's so many cool projects that people are sharing. I think it was Bard's Craft who put the idea of doing a mimic series in my head with his treasure chest mimic. It looks really intense. I might want to tackle a similar project very soon. In future videos, I'm going to be reviewing some cheap miniatures available on Amazon, as well as taking a look at some of the pickups for various miniatures and whatnot that I've scoured the internet for. Right now, I'm running a game of Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, in my Discord. When it works out, I'm trying to make sure that I don't miss any more days of that. But yeah, I've been busy at work recently. But Icewind Dale has always been a very fun setting. And let me tell you something, that book is really, really fun to run. So if you're going to save up for a Christmas present for yourself or somebody else, I would suggest you consider getting a copy of Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's a very satisfying adventure to run for others. Hey, speaking of the Discord, you should stop on by and join sometime. I usually drop invitation links during my live streams. If you like the kind of content that I'm putting out there, please subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you want to support this channel, then those links are in the description as well.
Have a great day, and as always, thank you for watching the video.